See, the thing about Dracula being sexy, this is what vampires get wrong, right?
Right. This is the intro now?
Is that everyone's like, oh, they're...
Or do we just have it fade out on that?
There's these doll-faced baby boy vampires, right? Like, they're really handsome.
Yeah.
But the reason why Dracula is sexy is he's bestial. That's what attracts women to him.
Women are freaks.
He's a foreign beast of a man. He's hairy. He's got weird eyebrows. He's got crazy hair.
Yeah, women are gross.
He's balding on top.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
And then, like we were talking about Dracula the other day. And Dracula, he chose vampires. But you talk about how, when he starts the story, he's talking about Strix and he's talking about...
Okay, so I've read more of Dracula.
Yeah.
And you brought it up. So, it's a fascinating book.
Yeah.
It's actually fascinating how fantasy authors wrote in the past, because this book's from 1800s. It's before World War I think. Or
yeah, he wrote late 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
it's like 1890 or something.
Absolutely fascinating book. One point... not the main character. So apparently characters have gone combined. So it's John Harkin, or I think his name, is the lawyer. And he actually gets combined with Renfield in a lot of things. But Renfield is actually a lunatic in a lunatic asylum. So it's interesting the different adaptations. But anyways, so how the story is written so far is... It is people's journals. It is newspaper clippings. It is letters exchanged between people. You're reading excerpts of their life of what this character chose to write down.
Yeah.
So after John Harkin, he's writing his diary about what's going on. And then we go back to England, and it's Lucy and Mina. And Mina writes in... very straightforward writing, because she's married to a lawyer, or she's going to be married to a lawyer, and she wants to be useful to him. So she's learning to write like a lawyer in shorthand, even in her journal. She does it to practice. And so she writes like a lawyer. Then Lucy is this doe-eyed girl whose father had a bunch of health problems. He's insane, basically. She has a bunch of health problems, and she lives with Mina. They sleep in the same room. And because she sleepwalks at night, Mina locks the door so Lucy can't get out. And whenever Lucy's writing, she's writing like this love-struck girl. It's like, oh, there's 3 men who are all suiting for me. And like, she's writing a letter to Lucy here.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's 3 men who want to marry me. Each one of them proposed, but I love this one. But oh, I wish women could marry 3 men so I could love all of them. And she's like all flowery. And then it switches to a police officer, chief witness, excerpt from a newspaper, writing super professional. And it's jotting down everything he saw of Dracula's ship crashing into England. And so he's like gathering all these different perspectives, and each character is actually written differently. And because it's from their perspective, the story is immensely written differently. Because it's how a police chief would write, how a fisherman would have written, how a lawyer would have written, how a girl would have written.
It'd be interesting. I don't know if it probably goes back too far into human history, but it'd be cool to see what writing style emerged, right? Because like late 1800s, that was a super popular style. Was like it's a journal diary. It's like even Lord of the Rings is technically a diary of Aragon and Frodo.
Yeah,
basically. So and I believe you're supposed to be able to tell which sections.
Yeah, so there's excerpts written by every single character. So there's excerpts written by Merry.
Excerpts.
Excerpts.
Yeah.
Written by Merry, Pippin, Sam, Frodo, Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn. And you can, if you really pay attention, you can tell when which character's writing.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool that he did it that way. A lot of, like, all of Dostoevsky's work is basically written as if it happened in the past. And it's sort of like, here's this story I heard about, which was very strange. This man was, it's written like that.
And going back to Bram Stoker's Dracula, there's a fascinating thing in it where, because we know the story of Dracula, we know modern vampires, we know modern fears, Dracula is overwhelmingly evil and sinister to us.
Yeah.
In this story, he is overwhelmingly evil and sinister, but the people back then didn't know what a vampire was. Whereas this here, Dracula's just doing what a vampire would do. However, to them, this is like, he's awful. He's this, And he's awful in different ways. Like, he is unnecessarily cruel to John Harkin when he's imprisoned in Castle Dracula. He does these really nasty things to him. Harkin displeases him at some point, and because he's trying to send out letters, he gives it to Dracula's gypsy band to mail the letters for him, and the gypsies give the letters back to Dracula. And this pisses Dracula off. And so he goes to sleep, the lawyer goes to sleep, and he wakes up in the morning. And all his writing material is gone. All his luggage is gone. Even his clothes are gone. He only has the clothes he has. And he's been doing this thing where at night he'll look out his window, and he sees Dracula slither out his window and crawl down the side of the building to go do his business in the towns around Transylvania. So he looks out, and he sees Dracula crawling out his window, and Dracula's wearing his clothing. And Dracula's wearing his clothing to go post letters and pretend to be him, so there's witnesses that this guy actually left the manor and he's free. But he's also wearing his clothing to commit crimes as him, so the people of the local landscape, if the lawyer ever escapes, will hate him because they saw this Englishman doing these things. So Dracula's pretending to be him.
Right. So imagine you're running a D&D campaign, right? And you want to have a vampire in your campaign.
Yeah.
So you could either have the vampire have lifesteal.
Yeah.
And maybe a level drain. Or you could have the vampire like impersonating the guys and crawling up walls and invite, like you could, if you go back to the original sources. So why I brought up Dracula is because he was the guy that he chose to focus on vampires.
Yeah.
But he could have chosen to focus on Strix or
werewolves.
And then those things would have been launched into, because vampires are a fairly they're basically zombies before he did that. They were like revenants. Yeah. So a great one is Draugr, right? Like a Draugr in Skyrim, it's an undead enemy that lives in the crypts.
Yeah.
Right. What that doesn't get into is that they are very powerful magicians. Now they can cast spells in Skyrim, to be fair, but they're in the old myths, they're actually very powerful magicians. But also they have the ability to do something, which is they can form a hammer. Hammer is the Old Norse word for coat, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that's what Fafnir did, because Fafnir was actually a dwarf. But he was cursed by his father. He murdered his father for his father's fortune. Yeah. And so he was cursed by his father to be obsessed with his own gold, I think. Yeah. And so Fafnir put on a hammer of a dragon in order to protect his gold. And Fafnir means something like the entangled one or the fathomless one or something. Like, so basically it means he's like this really giant long creature wrapped around a pile of treasure. Yeah. Like, so the dragon sleeping on the hoard, that was Fafnir. Like that's his whole thing, is like sleeping on the treasure. Yeah. Yeah. And but there's an amazing picture of a Draugr. I think I don't know when it's from, but it's like a woodcut or something. But there's a little town. It's black and white drawing. There's a little town. That's a woodcut, or so obviously black and white, I guess. But yeah, there's a little town. Japanese had color woodcuts, to be fair. Little town, trees, and there is this monstrous corpse like striding through the town, like it's like 50 feet tall, and that is a Draugr wearing or like casting its hammer upon itself to have a projection, sort of like Apache Chief, maybe. I'm trying to think of like a modern equivalent. Like it's sort of like you can imagine as like a holographic projection from the creature, but it actually can interact with things and like do stuff, but it's not the creature itself necessarily. And you're like, okay, give that to your D&D campaign. Like, we see this giant ghost at night looming over the town and like leaving giant footprints in the dirt. Yeah. There's some details.
I want to talk about Bram Stoker more deeply, but I also want to talk about some details in like the very beginning of Dracula, which is, so Dracula is not how we imagine him today, because his first description is he has this giant mustache. Like, he's got these two long mustaches. He's got these protruding teeth, very red, lips full of life with dead skin all around it, very high cheekbones. And he's got these massive eyebrows that meet in the middle. He's got hands that look elegant, but when you look at them closer, they're brutish and stubby with nails shaped like claws. And there's hair on the palms of his hand. Yeah. And so he is a monster, but he speaks very eloquently, and he's learned English. And when you go into Dracula's study, he has magazines and newspapers from London because he's planning to live there.
Where do you think the whole, like, because it's a common theme for, like, witches and vampires and, like, the hairy palm sort of thing.
It's to make them bestial.
Yeah.
Like, and it's basically to...
But you can, like, conceal it, maybe? Like...
They are creatures driven by lust. So hairy palms used to symbolize someone controlled by their lust.
Yeah.
I'm not certain where I initially realized by, but it's basically to show that Dracula is a lustful creature. That's the symbolism.
Yeah. But it's a weird one, isn't it? But it's not just Dracula. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah. And so he's very eloquent. He's very good at speaking. He's very charming. He's also very cruel. His eyes are red as the fires of hell. When he's angry, it's as if you're gazing into hell. And he gets hit in the face with a shovel when he's in torpor. And he turns his head at the lawyer and just smiles at him. It's like, I'm coming for you. So the shovel does nothing to him. So he's this absolute monster in the disguise of a man in a human form. And his 3 wives look like him. So they're all incredibly beautiful, but they also have high cheekbones. And their skin looks white as porcelain or death, but their lips are red and full of life. And they have these protruding teeth. It's a very important description of them. Is basically, and when Dracula, he sees that Dracula is fed on someone, his face is bloated and full of the colors of life, while the skin of his body is still dead.
Which is how vampires were kind of described, because when they would dig up the bodies of suspected vampires, they would find that their mouths were bloody, and their face looked livid, as if, like, they didn't look like they'd just been, like, they didn't look dead. They looked like they were bloated and, like, they'd just been drinking blood or something. And their mouths often had their grave shrouds stuck in it as they were chewing on it with their, like, endless hunger. So it was very focused on their teeth and the blood around their face. That was, like, the original vampire. So you can obviously tell Stoker had, like, the conception of the vampire.
And then when Dracula comes to England, it's a boat is coming in, and people see this boat, and it's like, oh, it's at full sail, and it's late in the evening, there's a storm coming. They best, like, put their sails down soon, and then the storm's coming. And the whole town is there. It's like the biggest storm they've had, this coastside town. And every time a ship is brought in, one of the fishermen's ships, the whole crowd cheers that someone's life was saved. They're happy. And then a wave of despair goes throughout the town as they see this ship, this sloop with full masts, and it's coming towards a reef. And even though it's high tide, the waves are so bad that they fear it's going to destroy the ship. And everyone's panicking that the ship is going to sink. And it's a big deal, the ship sinking. And the storm that is going on above them, it's the worst storm they ever had. There's lightning going. And they look at the clouds, and there's figures in the clouds. And it's some of the trailers for both Dracula and Nosferatu capture this well. It shows like a quaint English town, and it shows this massive cloud. And if you look at the cloud close enough, you see Dracula reaching towards the town to pick it up in his hand. And so this cloud has these figures of evil in it. And then the ship is getting tossed back and forth in the storm. And it goes over the reef, and it crashes into the harbor, and settles down, and everything's taut, and sails are snapping, lines are snapping. They look at the ship, and there's no one on board. And then this massive dog-like creature leaps off the boat and runs away into the graveyard nearby. And they go onto the boat. This is the police chief. He's the chief witness with the harbor master. He goes on the boat, and they find the helmsman tied to the wheel by ropes, and wrapped around his wrists is beads with the cross on it, the crucifix. And they see that the ropes of the wheel cut through his flesh down to the bone. He's lashed to it, and they check his body. He's been dead for 2 days. And they reverently take this man off the sail and bury him with honors because he fulfilled his duty. He brought the boat home safely, even though he was dead, by God's grace. And basically what happened is the ship was transporting everyone across, and because Dracula can't help himself, he kills everyone on the boat. But his will, his evil, forces the boat to land.
So what you're getting at, I guess, is when he's not as we envision him, he's not just, a creature with life drain, right? Like, he is actually an embodiment of evil that brings ruin wherever he goes. And it's not just ruin caused directly by him. It's sort of like he is a force of negativity on the earth.
Yeah, like Dracula is Satan like, he's the Antichrist almost.
Yeah.
Like, he is the devil's blood. He is evil. And I was reading about Bram Stoker, and he wrote quite a few books which are actually pretty popular. He wrote the Seven Star Something, which is about a man trying to bring a female mummy to life.
Yeah.
Who's the Egyptian queen. And the story ends really tragically. Basically, a bunch of people die, he's left alone. And there's another story called The White Worm, which is about a dragon. And it's... Bram Stoker's dragon's very cool. The White Worm is the ancestor of dragons who gave up its cunning for power. And so it's this giant lizard with this long white body, long white tail, long neck. And it's got these flapping like legs and limbs, but his wings are shriveled and don't work. And the White Worm can turn into a woman who basically tries to seduce the main character. And the story ends tragically. So there are revisions to both the Mummy story and the White Worm, which were released 7 years after release. The White Worm was released, Bram Stoker died, and 7 years after his death, they released the story. That gives them happy endings. They're released with happy endings. And I recently finished The First Law.
Yeah.
And the ending of the book ruined it for me.
Do you want to go into a little bit of spoilers here?
Yes, so this is going to be massive spoilers for the First Law series.
And since we can probably just say spoilers till the end of the episode, probably, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, First Law, just a quick overview if it's been a while since you read it. Your time to have left because of spoilers is now. Yeah. So get out of here.
I was trying to think of ways to talk about vaguely, but...
No, it is like the biggest twist.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the biggest twists in any book ever, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, it's actually a massive spoiler.
Yeah.
It will completely change the series for you if you know it before you read the series.
Yeah.
Because it turns every single plot point on its head, basically.
Yeah.
So I would say, if you want to read The First Law, do not listen to this, basically.
Yeah.
Although it would be interesting as a first read if you knew the twist, because you'd be kind of waiting for it, and it wouldn't happen. And you'd be waiting for it, it wouldn't happen. But yeah, okay, so basically, Gandalf comes, and he says, I need your help to save the world.
Yeah.
And so, everyone goes with Gandalf, and they save the world, and then they realize that Gandalf was actually the evilest dark force in the world behind the throne the whole time.
Yeah.
And he's the reason Aragorn can't get back on the throne. And he's the one who is maintaining a delicate balance of endless war so that his power is the most of everyone else. And he is like the supreme bad guy of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there's sequels to them. I don't plan reading them because I don't think I can stand the author because I see him as incredibly spiteful with that ending. Because there's I think 3 or 4 things that would have changed about the ending of the book. And if it had ended like this, even though what he did was massively subvert expectations, screw you, I don't want my expectations subverted.
Yeah.
So what I would have changed is Colonel West, I guess High Marshal West at that point, wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have gone magic cancer.
Well, he doesn't die.
He does. He gets magic cancer and dies.
I don't think he dies.
In the later books, it's revealed he's dead.
Yeah. I thought he's just like super sick at the end of the book.
No, it's basically implied he's dead.
Yeah, but I think he's just like super sick, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have happened to him.
Yeah.
In my ending, when the rock crushed him, he would have lost an arm or a leg.
Yeah.
And he would have had parallelism with Glocter if Glocter's a cripple.
Yeah.
And he's a cripple, but he can still fulfill his life, but he's no longer a warrior. And it would give him and Glocter something to relate over.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I would change.
I mean, they are related, technically. Like, he's
his
brother-in-law.
Yeah, but like I would have made it so he'd have a happy ending.
Yeah.
Because he deserves it. Next thing I would have changed is Logan Ninefinger's fate.
I think he kind of deserved it, really. Like, the man, like, he's not a good person, right?
Well,
like,
so here's Logan Ninefinger's ending, though, that I would give him. Is so, when he killed Tall Duro the Thunderhead, I almost quit reading the book.
Yeah.
But so near the end, what kept going. And what you could do with Tall Duro's death, they went with a different direction, but what you could do with Tall Duro's death is later on in the books, he's fighting alongside Dogman, who's his best friend. His closest friend, his oldest friend, his best friend, Dogman. And they're fighting together, and he starts getting injured, and Dogman helps him up. and it switches to the Bloody Nine. And the Bloody Nine is going to kill Dogman. And then a giant blast of magic goes out and stuns everyone and knocks the Bloody Nine out, and Logan wakes up again. And what I would have changed there is it would require some more subtle hints in the story. Like, after, I wouldn't have it so Logan forgot that he killed Thunderhead. Like, he would actually realize he did that because he's always certain who he killed when he's the Bloody Nine. But I basically have him realize that he killed the Thunderhead and make him really remorseful about that. Because he's been trying to be a better person. That's Logan's story arc, is he's been trying to be a better person. And he's left everyone behind. He's trying to be a better person. And so the Bloody Nine comes out and he's about to kill Dogman. And the line would literally be, not even Fenris the Fear could kill the Bloody Nine, but Logan Ninefingers could. And Logan would suppress the Bloody Nine so that he wouldn't kill Dogman. And by doing this, Logan would lose the Bloody Nine. Logan would no longer be the most feared fighter in the North, but he'd get to keep his friendship with the Dogman and actually get to be a better man.
I really think that wouldn't mesh with like the rest of the story. Just like the way it's written. It's more written as a tragedy, right? Like it's...
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay. Because
I've been thinking about this a lot.
It's very like Celtic and Norse, like sort of Scottish inspired, right? And they like, think of Cuchulainn. Like, he killed his best friend. He killed his son.
Yeah.
He died fighting for a cause he didn't really care about. Like, he was the greatest warrior, but he was useless. Like, that's sort of like the classic Celtic tragedy.
Yeah, so then Pharaoh is driven insane by holding the artifact.
Yeah.
And Logan goes to try to speak with her to rekindle their romance. And she's just going, do you hear that? Do you, like, is this thing going on? And Logan also is insane. He's heard voices. He has problems. And instead of it just being like a regrettable ending, like it would still be regrettable because I think it works, but Logan would understand what she's going through and he would try to help her and then he would leave. And then finally, the thing I would change is it's revealed that Gloctor's cane is a sword. And he kills his best friend with it. Or one of his friends. He kills Frost with his cane. So it's revealed he has a sword. And so Gloctor goes into his house at the end of the book. And Gloctor is kind of the main character, the only guy who kind of gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
And he meets the head of the bank, who's his antagonist the whole series. And that's the wizard, that's Gandalf.
Yeah, it's Baez.
Baez, yeah. And Baez basically tells him, this is how it's going to be, you're my bitch.
Yeah.
And Baez has this supreme arrogance and hubris. And one of the big things about Gloctor is everyone underestimates him as a cripple. And so when Baez turns to leave, Gloctor stabs him in the back with his cane and kills him.
I don't think he could.
Punish Baez for his hubris. Because everyone underestimates Gloctor.
Yeah, but I don't think that would work. Like, Baez is actually like... Because that's kind of part of the reveal is Baez was never in danger. There was never a threat. He is the first of the Magi. Like, he is so... Like, for instance, any of the Eaters, you can't just stab them and they'll die, right? Like, they're very powerful. So I think if he stabbed him in the back, Baez just turns around and he's like...
Well, I think Baez is different than an Eater. I think stabbing on the back would work, actually.
I think, if I recall correctly, in the second series, there is actually a character that just tries to straight up kill Baez. I seem to remember. And I think it's basically like, sword doesn't even hurt him. Like, if I recall correctly.
Well, he was terrified of the builder's daughter, or the maker's daughter.
Sort of.
When they fought each other inside the tower.
Yeah, I think, if it's been a while since I read it, but I think the implication was he wasn't really afraid of her. He was afraid of leaving his state of evil, basically. Like it's basically she is the one who could redeem him in a way, but that or change him, and that change and redemption is destruction of his self.
Yeah,
because I think what he feared was losing himself. Is kind of how I remember it. Like, I think the initial implication was that she was really powerful.
Yeah,
but I think it actually kind of like he is on another tier above like everyone else. The only person that even comes close to matching him
is the prophet Khalul.
Is the prophet, and even the prophet is like nowhere near him really. Yeah. Like, it's revealed Baez has everything planned from the beginning.
Yes. And
like nothing can touch him basically.
But what I want to get to
is
something written by Discworld's author.
Okay. Terry Pratchett?
Yeah. Why does the third son of three brothers, who shares his food with an old woman in the woods, go on to become the king of a country? Why does James Bond manage to disarm the nuclear bomb in a few seconds before it goes off rather than, as it were, a few seconds afterwards? Because a universe where that did not happen would be a dark and hostile place. Let there be goblin hordes, let there be terrible environmental threats, let there be giant mutant slugs if you really must, but let there also be hope. If you may be grim, it may be a grim, thin hope, Arthurian sword at sunset, but let us know that we do not live in vain.
Yeah.
And so, grimdark, I think, which is what his book is, a tragedy, grimdark, I think I hate it. I think I despise it as a storytelling method. And that's why Bram Stoker's books were rewritten to have slightly better endings. Is you don't feel good after reading them. And it ruined the book series for me that there wasn't, you could even have Byers get away with being an evil bastard, but at least let the characters have a slight amount of happiness afterwards.
So what I'll say about the second series, the second trilogy after the First Lost trilogy. So the main characters in the second series are Dogman, Glokta, I think his name is Cal or Call, and then there's there's a lot of series, so I'm not getting mixed up, but it's there's a civil war going on basically, so it's the main leaders of the civil war, and then there's
I know there's a sub-book which is 2 books with a character named Lamb.
And I could swear that Commander West is one of the main characters as well. That's why I don't think he dies, because I'm pretty sure he's one of the main characters in the next series.
Yeah, but there's a book with a character, there's 2 books with a character named Lamb.
Lamb?
Yeah, and he's a 9-fingered man.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not remembering. One of the other main characters is he's like a communist revolutionary mill worker.
Yeah.
And why I'm talking about these guys is basically everyone starts seeing that the system is super corrupt and they're trying to rebel against it. And Glokta comes in and he's like, you can't, you idiots, you can't. And he can't explain why, obviously, because but Glokta's the only guy that knows about Baez.
Yeah.
And so he goes around trying to basically keep everything, but he is also, because he is very smart, and he is also I seem to remember subtly chipping away at Baez a little bit by bit, because he is, he is a good person way deep down.
Yeah.
And now most of the characters end in tragedy, of course, because it's the First Law. But I don't know. I don't remember it ending good.
Yeah.
But I think it toes the line enough you could almost see maybe at some point.
Yeah, but I don't like it. The ending of the First Law book just made me sad and unhappy, and I didn't like the ending. And I don't want to read any more of his books, because he just seems incredibly spiteful.
No, but
spiteful towards the character, spiteful towards the universe, spiteful towards fantasy, because it's the done thing that heroes get a happy ending, so I'm going to subvert it and make it miserable. There's a glimmer of light on the sword at sunset.
But I think this is something I thought about years and years and years ago. I was probably I think it was when I read that book, Return to Quag Keep.
Yeah.
Where all the characters die at the end. It's this heroic fantasy. We're going back for one last
and the bad guy wins.
And it's just pow, it's over, right? And the thought I had back then was, there's kind of a pact among every author that has ever written a story.
Yeah.
Because a story needs to have stakes. And if the heroes win every single time, then the story has no stakes. Because the story will end with the heroes winning, right? But if there is 0.5% of authors that make it their duty to have the bad ending, then stories still have stakes. And you still watch and you go, are they gonna win? Are they gonna lose? I don't know. It's like Norvo recently posted a series where he lost. He was playing Heroes of Might and Magic and he actually lost the campaign.
Yeah.
And all the comments were it's actually refreshing to see that you can lose, and that because otherwise it's just, we'll just watch until he wins, and there's not actually, it's just, he's just winning, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm not gonna stand by this entirely, but I think there might be a bit of a compact is needed in order to...
We already have that with Shakespeare. Shakespeare did it with his tragedies. We don't need more.
And I think, because, the story of Cuchulainn, right? Of course. Yeah. Tragedy. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy.
Lots
Macbeth
of old
is a
Chinese
tragedy.
Movies with Jackie Chan.
There's a lot
I
of
don't see any generals. I see 4 fools.
hero is a tragedy in a way. It's a bit weird because it's like a heroic tragedy, which is kind of common for China, I guess, is like the heroic tragedy.
I'm fine with the heroic tragedy. There is no screaming at the end against a horde of flatheads. It's just everyone walks away whimpering.
Yeah, like it's I've heard it called I think it's called the Bolivian Army ending. There was I don't remember the movie, but basically it's about these like bank robbers or something. Yeah. And they're like the top gangsters in the land and they can win any gunfight. And at the end of the movie, the Bolivian army is outside the bank. And so they jump out with their guns like the 2 bank robbers, ready to fight the entire Bolivian army. And then it just freeze frames and ends. And it's like, obviously they die. Like, but it ends before that, you know? Yeah. It's, or like, did you ever watch The Grey? Like Liam Neeson fighting a pack of wolves, basically? No. Yeah, at the very end, like, all his friends are dead. And he's surrounded by the pack of wolves.
Yeah, but like, Boromir's ending or Roland's ending.
Yeah.
That is a tragic ending. And I can accept that. But Logan trying to be a better man, and it's like, no, I can't be. I'm an evil bastard. So I shall just be an evil bastard. I don't like that.
Well, that's not quite Logan's ending. Logan's ending is kind of interesting.
Well, he jumps out of a window.
Yeah, but it's from his point of view. So it's really interesting because it's like, because all throughout the series, there's been like, say one thing about Logan, say he's not a coward. Say one thing about Logan, say he is a coward. Or say one thing about Logan, say he's an idiot. Or say one... But then at the very end, it's like, he jumps out the window and he's like, say one thing about Logan, say he... And then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of... It's like a little ambiguous, but it's also like maybe he could be saying, say he did the right thing in the end. Or say he, like, you know, it could be whatever.
The right thing, let Black Dow become king of the Northmen.
Well, what I also like is that it goes to show that, you know, Logan is the deadliest warrior. He just beat the feared.
Yeah.
But the other named men are no pushovers.
Yeah.
Like, Black Dow was able to beat Logan. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't... The trilogies aren't the end of the stories. They're more the end of the arcs. So the story kind of continues with the next
trilogies. Well, I figured it probably does that way. I just...
But it doesn't really get... Like, I would say if you were upset by Logan's sort of arc and Baez's arc...
I'm like, my major upsets were Grimm dying.
Yeah.
And the fate of the King of the Union and Wes's fate at the end. I really didn't like those.
The one that really bothered me actually was Wes. Like, because it was just kind of like, screw you.
Yeah, screw you, get magic cancer.
Yeah, it was just like out of nowhere. Well, it wasn't cancer, it was radiation poisoning. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure Wes is alive in the next series, if I recall correctly. And I'm pretty sure that Iron Call has a much worse story than any of the characters in the first series. So that's dark. The boxer, I can't remember his name, but he's like the communist revolutionary, actually has a happy ending, I believe. Like, he actually becomes a hero and he does the right thing. So there is some characters that it's actually like good. The duelist guy.
The king of the Union, who has a lesbian wife.
Yeah. That does not go well in the next series. It's very, very miserable for everyone involved. Yeah. I think at one point it does get better and then it gets worse again. I can't remember. Yeah. Glokta actually does a pretty good job of improving his life. He marries the girl. He turns things around. He becomes the power behind the throne. He does what he can to mitigate the problems of the kingdom while still staying under Baez's rule.
Yeah, and the girl actually treats his problem rather than him living with it. She actually starts making it better.
Yeah, so that one gets better. Gorst, or whatever his name is, the super champion duelist guy.
The captain of the Kingsguard.
Yeah, he's actually... he's a cool character in the next series. The king, the new king, like the duelist guy, his son is like the most dislikable character ever. He's... So he's introduced, like, it's the opening of the book, basically. There's a person that's about to be hanged who's obviously innocent.
Yeah.
And he's watching the hanging going on. And he's like, I always wanted to be... He's just ruminating to himself. He's like, I always wanted to be a good person. Everyone always thinks I never do any good. I never step up. I never do anything. And they're seeing, like, the noose get put on the guy. And he's like, I just always wanted to be a good person. Help someone out that didn't need it. And then he's like, you know, that guy's innocent. I could save his life. I could turn, I could do a good thing there. I could be a good person. You know, if I wasn't so tired all the time, I could be a good person. And then someone says like, hey, excuse me, can I ask you something? And he's like, yeah, okay, what's that? And then the guy gets hanged, and he's like, oh, something always gets in the way. Instead of being like, one moment, stands up, hey, stop the execution. Because he's the king. Like, he's the prince, right? He could stop the execution if he wanted. But he always just blames... His whole life is a mess because all he does is ruminate about how his life is a mess. Yeah. It's like that Jordan Peterson saying, the definition of depression is thinking about yourself.
Well, that's one of my other problems, is there is some really good writing in the books.
No, it reminds me a lot of...
There's also some terrible writing tropes I absolutely hate in those books.
Like what? I'm trying to remember.
So tell me, where they begin with so, and then they have tell me. So tell me I hate as a writing thing. It is awful. That's one of my pet peeves. He has a few things like that in there, and I really don't like them. But other things he does, which I do like characters having catchphrase actions. The parallelism at the end, he did some really cool stuff with the writing at the end where the city is being destroyed and someone does an action and the action's the start of the next character's action. And then the story begins as it ends, as Logan jumping into a river. Yeah. Or jumping off a cliff into an ocean.
And what I think the biggest problem, I have a theory why I in part brought up those tragedies, is I bet you wouldn't actually mind like the ending, like all the cruelty, all the misery, all the bad stuff, all the people dying. But the problem is that Baez is like so omnipresent that none of it meant anything. Yeah. Like no sacrifice meant anything. It was all just Baez playing a game by himself, basically.
Yeah, well, the whole thing of he's like, oh, well, we didn't get the stone, we didn't get the seed. He still went to the city to plan his thing out. He was still planning to fight the 100 names without the seed. He was going to get the divider to kill them all. Yeah. But then he got it. And when he was using the seed, he is like, I am more powerful than the maker, Canadius, the guy he fought, Juvens. Yeah. Or who's the father of Juvens and Canadius?
I don't know.
Well, he's like, even this guy himself, I have more power than him. And he kept the tornado going long after he'd killed all the eaters. Because he just liked the power and it made him young again, touching it. It's like, you broke the first law. It's like, well, they're just guidelines. If we followed the rules all the time, nothing would get done.
I think, yeah, it's tricky.
It's Baez, like, yeah, it could, I would have less of a problem if Baez got what he deserved.
Like, I think a better ending could have been, like, from your perspective, for sure, would be the revelation that even Baez had no effect on the Bloody Nine or something. Yeah. Like, the Bloody Nine could stop anyone. Like even Baez couldn't do anything about him. I think that would... because do I remember correctly that Baez's second in command was afraid of Logan? Well, I mean, he's not really afraid of anything, but, like, Logan could actually be a threat to him, or am I remembering incorrectly?
I don't think that was a thing.
Okay.
His second in command got trapped in the Maker's Tower with the Maker's daughter.
Yeah. So he did have a little setback, I guess you could say.
Yeah. But he's just it was a worthy sacrifice because he got what he wanted. Sacrifices have to be made.
But yeah, it's a tricky one because it's very fresh. Like, so much of it is very, very fresh. Mm-hmm. But it's almost a bit too fresh at the end and a bit too... Like, I told you about that interview with Joe Abercrombie that I saw where they're like... and I'd seen it back to back with one with Jim Butcher, where with Jim Butcher it's like, so what are you reading right now? It's like, oh, so many books. But Black Company, like... Glenn Cook, I thought he was done writing, but 9 years later, he finally released a new book, so I'm reading the latest Black Company book. I'm having an amazing time with it, and I can't wait to go back and read the, whatever it's called, the Lost Empire series as well, because I just love Glenn Cook so much. And then it's like, Joe Abercrombie, what are you reading? He's like, I don't really like books, I'm not really a reader. And it's like...
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have the overwhelming sense that Joe Abercrombie is just kind of petty. Well... And I can't read any of the other books, I don't think. And, like, there's parts of the series I like, but the ending ruined it for me. And, like, that thing that Pratchett said, I think, was a refute to authors like Joe Abercrombie, actually.
Yeah, I think there was...
And I do understand what you're saying with this pact, but there's also the suspension of disbelief, which is, like, the agreement you go into when you read a book, which is the heroes will win in the end. And that's even the thing with if you look at 40k, and some people complain that's no longer grimdark, it's hope punk. But if you actually look at what 40k is there are two halves to what 40k is. There is the mythos of 40k, which is the Horus Heresy books, which are a tragedy. They are the rise and fall of the Emperor of Mankind and everything he did coming to dust. And what leads to the world we are in now of Warhammer 40k. And then there are the stories that take place in Warhammer, such as the Caiaphas Cain books or the other ones, which is these characters are fighting a losing battle against evil. What they're doing is small and petty in the universe, and overall it amounts to nothing. But the heroes are still good men.
You know...
And that's the thing, they're good people. That's the problem with Joe Abercrombie. It could even be a tragedy. But Logan and the King of the Union and the only main character who's a good guy, well, there's two. There's Dogman and Glokta. However, Glokta is evil. He's a torturer. He's awful.
I would say that Logan's a good guy.
Yeah, Logan's a good guy too, but Logan has to be a bad guy because he's forced to by his illness. Because Logan basically has split personality.
I don't even think he's forced to be a bad guy, really. I think he is just a good guy. I think he's too hard on himself, and even if he thinks even if he thinks that he himself can't be redeemed, I think from the outside he is a good person trying to do... he saved the world. That. Yeah. That's pretty... He didn't have to. He went out and he saved the world because his spirit told him to. Yeah. I think Logan is a good guy. And I think that Logan's own interpretation of himself is just wrong, basically. Yeah. Even though Logan's always saying who he is, he's wrong about himself. Yeah. But what's interesting, where you're talking about how the Horus Heresy was the setup, and then the novels actually take place within that universe. Because in the later series in that universe... Yeah. Call Iron Eye, people call him the next Logan. They're like, you're the greatest fighter we've ever seen. You could even beat the Feared. You're like the Bloody Nine. Yeah. And the son of the prince, he actually is like, I don't want to be like my father in a loveless marriage. I want to find real love. I want to actually be a person that can love. Yeah. And so all the characters, they're like lesser versions of the first series, but they also have more potential, which I think is kind of an interesting, Yeah. It's kind of like Bionicle, actually. Like the Tomamata, the greatest of the heroes. But then the Tomametru come in and they were the previous ones, actually. But they're like the lesser version of the first version. But they have almost more depth to them with their journey. Yeah, but I feel like if it's going to be written that way, then the Bloody First Law series should be the the prequel. To the main book series. There is a prequel series, I believe, as well. He wrote a lot of books in that universe, actually. Yeah, I know. It's just... But, yeah, no, I would say you don't have to like it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to like it. Sometimes there's just something that sets you off. Mm-hmm. And, now, if you want to read a series, completely opposite ending. It's the most hope-filled, good guys win ending ever. It's the Burning White series by Brent Weeks, which is, people complained because they're this is this gritty, grimdark series, and then you have the most Christian, hopeful, everyone's happy, sings Kumbaya ending ever. I actually loved it. It was because I know the plot of Dracula. Yeah. Spoilers to Dracula. Well, I'm going to read it soon, so I don't want spoilers for Dracula. Do you not actually know the whole story? No, I don't know the story at all. I mean, I know he dies theoretically, but no, I didn't even know if there was a ship. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not going to read it anymore because now that there's a ship, sorry. It goes to England. Yeah. I thought it was in Transylvania. But... It is. It takes place in two places. Yeah, but I'm just, in Bram Stoker's time, Transylvania wasn't part of Romania, I think. Nope. Yeah. So, interesting. Yeah, I guess it was his own little thing. Yeah. Yeah. Or was it conquered by the Ottomans at that point? No, it wasn't. They fought the Ottomans off. Dracula actually goes on about how his ancestors beat the Turks and how they were betrayed by their people, but in the end they won. Oh, so Dracula's a descendant of Vlad the Impaler or something? Basically. Yeah. He talks about his noble family line. Oh, here's a question. Maybe you don't know. Maybe it's never revealed. But fantasy back in the day used to be more realistic. Yeah. Right. So is Dracula a vampire, or is he a really evil man? He's a vampire. Okay. Like, or is he, because I'm getting at, like, is he just like a very corrupt, cruel man that makes him like supernatural because he's so evil? And
No, he's a vampire.
Okay.
He, I think...
Like made a deal with the devil or
Yeah,
something?
I think he basically made a deal with the devil to be a vampire.
Okay. Yeah. Because
he might have been a very evil man that then turned into a vampire, but he's a vampire.
it's one thing
So there's a massive... one of the big plots about Dracula... It's right in the very beginning of the book, is there's this man who's almost 100 years old, and he's talking to Mina and Lucy.
Yeah.
And he's joking about death. They're sitting on this really nice park bench, and they're looking down at a graveyard. And he's pointing to all the graves and joking about how each person died, and how, like, their bodies aren't even in these graves, because this is a sailor's graveyard. So when heaven comes, when, like, Judgment Day comes, what are they going to do? Are they going to crawl out of the ocean and go pick up their graves because their bodies aren't even there? It's like, and that guy there, he died by suicide. And then that horrifies Lucy. It's like, this used to be my favorite park bench, and then you tell me I'm been sitting near someone who killed themselves? I can't be here anymore. That's like I'm Christian being near someone who's buried for suicide.
Yeah.
And then the old man is talking with Mina later, and he's like, look, it's really lovely that you two young ladies have been talking with me and humoring a crazy old man. I'm almost 100 years old. I'm going to die soon, and I don't think any man should live past 100. It's not our place to live that long, but I don't want to die. I fear death, but I know the Reaper's coming for me, and so I deal with this whole thing by making jokes and making light of it, but please don't hold that against me, young lady. And then he's like, and then he looks up and he sees the ship coming. He's like, smell that? Smells like the Reaper. The old man has sharpened his scythe and he's coming for me. Maybe it's my time. And so it's actually talking about this old man's at the beginning says, no man should live past 100.
Yeah.
He's like 99 years old. He's going to die soon. And he's like, I'm scared of death, but it has to happen.
But whereas Dracula was scared of death, so he sought to avoid it with the devil, right?
Yes.
He fled from the call instead of...
Yeah.
So Dracula...
So that is actually why Dracula hates the cross.
Because that is Jesus accepting death.
Yeah, it's Jesus accepting death, but it's also you going to heaven. It's getting redeemed. It's the symbol of going to heaven.
Well, remember what we said? It was many episodes ago now. Yeah. But it was that the point of the lesson of Christianity is that you're supposed to die. Yeah. And you have to die over and over and over again. Otherwise, if you're afraid of death, you're afraid of change. That's the cluster B. Like, you flee the death of the self at every moment. And if you have enough deaths during your life, the final death at the end might be an even greater transcendence, which is the story of Jesus. And so you could say you either become Jesus or Dracula.
Yeah,
right.
Dracula is like Fafnir. He's so cluster B, he became a vampire.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Fafnir's cluster B.
No, but I'm saying like Fafnir's a creature of greed. Yeah, he becomes a dragon.
But he's a creature of fear of fear of death and change. Then you become a vampire. Yeah. But I do love that about the old-fashioned stories where it's much more grounded. Mm-hmm. Like even there's a story. I don't think you've read it yet. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. No. It's like a modern story, but it was written to emulate the old 1800s style. Yeah. And the author does a fantastic job of it. And so it's very fun. Like there's all these wizards in London fighting Napoleon, and it feels very grounded and normal. And I think it's a better way to write fantasy. I think. Like I think the Forgotten Realms went way too far in one direction. Yeah. It gets a bit like, I don't know what these are, and I don't care about like what are these creatures. It gets a bit weird. But you bring it back into just a sprinkling of fairies and magic in London, and you're like, ooh, I like it.
Yeah, well, it's a like even Van Helsing's way of fighting vampires.
So is he a vampire hunter?
He's a monster hunter.
And those are things that are like, they exist, I guess, like werewolves.
Yeah. So Van Helsing's whole thing is he's a man of the world. He's traveled everywhere, and he's learned things everywhere, and he's a Christian man. He's a doctor. It's Dr. Van Helsing. It's very important he's Dr. Van Helsing, because he's a man of knowledge. He's a man of deep scientific knowledge. And what's really cool about him is there was actually a different part of the story which is expressed where...
That's also very like late 1800s, is they were obsessed with scientists. They're like, scientists and engineers are the salt of the earth, the greatest of people.
Well, so when Jonathan Harkin is imprisoned in Dracula's castle... He was given by one of the Transylvanian people a cross. And he's like, I never really cared one of these. It's out of fashion, basically, to have one of these. The modern man would disdain a cross and think, why does it give you comfort? But now here I am in Dracula's castle in the heart of evil, imprisoned by this man, this creature who wears the flesh of a man. I know not what he is. And it gives me comfort, though I know not why. And I am thankful to that old woman who gave it to me. Maybe it gives me comfort just because of how kind she was, and it's the memory of that imbued in it, and maybe that's all that a cross is. But it's the only thing that's keeping me sane. And so he hangs it above his bed, and it actually protects him. It protects him from Dracula, the cross that is hanging there. And so, at that point, in the 1800s, the Enlightenment had happened, and people were starting to express a disdain towards Christianity. Like, it's still, you want to be a good Christian, you don't want to be scandalous. But there was like, oh, we're logical and we're disdaining Christianity. However, Dr. Van Helsing is a man of science, he's a man of the world. And he says, the greatest weapon against Dracula is God.
Yeah.
It's faith.
That's really... I don't know if it was intended, but I kind of hope it was. Because there's so many times where it's like, how do you set back the demons at bay? And it's like, with the sign of the faith and the cross, right? And there's something like, oh, that's because... It becomes like faith... It's kind of like Zen enlightenment. Faith is like similar to... The reification of faith and enlightenment is the idea that there is this mystical otherworldly property which has a property which does something, right? Yeah. But instead, it's actually... You have a creature that rejected resurrection.
Yeah.
And therefore, the sign of resurrection reminds him of his failure and his damnation.
Yes.
And therefore, you can avoid damnation yourself in the presence of damnation, which draws you, by instead seeking redemption and resurrection.
Yeah.
And so it's actually like here's your paths, and this will protect you on that path.
And so there's the interesting thing, actually, about Dracula's victims who are also vampires. Or they're getting turned into vampires by him.
Would just be staying with him, maybe.
Well... They're not as affected by Christian things as Dracula is.
Right.
Because he turned them against their will.
Right. So they
have different weaknesses.
So Dracula could at any point be redeemed, but he doesn't want to be.
Yeah.
There's a point... It's not... Well, is a quote a spoiler? It depends.
Yeah. Oh. And I mean, I haven't gone to this part yet, but I do know if Dracula doesn't die in sunlight, he loses his power. Sunlight reveals to you what Dracula is.
I'll just say this. In Planescape Torment, there's a section on redemption, which is done so well. And I think... But the theme of it, without saying what it is or where it happens, the theme of it is someone has committed insane amounts of evil, right?
Yeah.
And they say to him, just seek redemption. And he's like, I've gone way too far.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, who do you think's in charge of redemption? It's not you. It's not the evil people. It's God.
Yeah.
What makes you think you've gone too far for God? Like, that's basically the line.
Yeah.
And so the thing with Dracula is he knows there's always redemption.
Yeah.
But
that's
you flee the redemption.
That's actually one of the things. So Dracula's three brides, his wives, they're evil.
Yeah.
Like the ones that Harkin meets, they're evil. They're awful. Horrible creatures. And Dracula, when he goes to London, he goes after Mina and Lucy. That's actually why Mina's a very popular vampire name. Is because...
I didn't know that was a popular...
Oh, it is.
Okay.
And it's because of Bram Stoker. So he goes after Mina and Lucy.
I didn't know there's popular vampire names. Well, besides like Camille, Nosferatu, Dracula, and... Carmilla, yeah.
Yeah. So Lucy is a great target for Dracula. Because she's an airhead. She's very pretty. And she has that whole thing of, oh, if only I could marry 3 men.
Yeah.
She is... Fae, the old-fashioned term of Fae. Like they're kind of an otherworldly person. They're not. You couldn't put them in an insane asylum,
right.
But it's like you need to marry them off to a responsible husband or responsible wife for them.
They're a little loopy.
Yeah, they're a little bit loopy, and so her being a target for Dracula is she becomes a bride of Dracula. In one way or another, it's going to bring out the worst of her. She's going to become a monster like Dracula. Not as evil as him, but equivalent in unpleasantness.
Yeah.
She's the type of woman who would lust after Dracula. Whereas Mina is a logical woman in love with Jonathan Harker. And if Dracula goes after her, her corruption is going to be tragic, and it can be fought against.
Right. Because she's just doing it out of a misplaced...
No, she's going to be, like, Dracula will corrupt her with his evil by the sheer power of it and, like, turning her into a vampire.
Yeah.
She doesn't want that. She doesn't embrace
right.
the vampirism, unlike Dracula's three brides and unlike Lucy.
Right.
They embrace becoming vampires, whereas Mina doesn't. And that's another important thing about spreading vampirism and how it works and all those things.
Right. You can embrace the path, or you can be struggling against corruption and not realizing it.
But you still need help from God, and that is kind of also what Dr. Van Helsing is that he is the hand of God saving them. Because like when he first shows up, his main goal isn't to kill Dracula, it's to save Mina and Lucy. That's why they bring him in, because he's a doctor, and Lucy's sick. And so you bring in a doctor, and they'll go just like, oh, what a peculiar case. She's been bitten by a vampire. I know how to treat this.
And what's interesting with Cluster B is it's like one of the lowest rates of success for psychologists to fix. Like they almost never succeed. However, one of the only way they have a chance is if the Cluster B person wants help and wants to change. And the problem is the condition is basically based on the fact that you don't want to change.
Yeah, actually.
So when the condition is definitionally you don't want to change, it's very hard to get you to change.
This is something interesting, is mirrors. So originally, why mirrors didn't show vampires is because they're silvered. And so you could say in the modern day, you should be able to take pictures of vampire because it's no longer safe for plate. You can film vampires. It won't actually work with Dracula.
Because he's afraid of what he's become.
He can't look at himself. So when it's revealed he hates mirrors, is John Harkin goes to do his bathroom, and he's like, oh, there's no mirrors in this place. How weird. He observes that. And then he's shaving himself because he doesn't want a beard. He wants to look well kept. And so he's holding his pocket mirror and he's shaving himself. And then Dracula says good morning to him and puts his hand on his shoulder. And he cuts himself on his cheek and he freaks out. He's like, what the? I didn't see him in the mirror. And he turns and he sees Dracula's there, and he's confused by it. And then Dracula sees the blood on his face, and his eyes blaze with anger at seeing the blood on Harkin's face. And then Dracula says to him, you should be careful with mirrors. They're evil things of vanity. See, look what it's done to you. Without it, you wouldn't have cut your face. And then he grabs the mirror out of his hand and throws it out the window, and it shatters.
I actually think Dracula might be right. I have a theory. I would need a bunch of children locked away for like 20 years to test the theory. Like as a psychological experiment.
Who? Plato's Cave?
No, not exactly. I think because there's this problem that is like kind of baffling humanity, which is acne.
Yeah.
Among teenagers. Because it doesn't really make sense. Like it's like a skin infection that is just like destroying people's faces, and it's like, why? What causes? Why do some people have it? Why do some people not? Why? Right. My theory is it's caused by mirrors. Because I think if you look in a mirror, you start touching your face like too much.
Yeah.
If you don't have a mirror, you don't touch your face. This is my theory right here. I guess what you could also do, there's tribes in the Amazon that don't have reflective surfaces because the river's too choppy.
Yeah.
You could see if their kids have acne. I guess that would also work.
Yeah.
I think the locking kids in a basement for 20 years might also be productive, but we can try both.
Yeah.
But that's my theory. I think that it might actually be unhealthy. Like filters, we know, are making women do all sorts of weird surgeries.
Yeah.
Like and then there's it can give you a weird sense of yourself as well. And people don't like going on to video calls without the nice little filter on. So I think like makeup might be a result. Like heavy makeup might be a result of mirrors as well.
I like the thing that it's his shock at Dracula not having a reflection that he cuts himself.
But Dracula blames the mirror.
Dracula blames the mirror, which he is kind of right, because he didn't see Dracula's reflection. And then he goes back in the mirror to make sure, and you can't see Dracula there. And he's like, what on earth is going on? But it's like, Dracula hates mirrors. And it's...
Bram Stoker, if I recall correctly, was friends with Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
Who did Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's like a parallel there of like, if you look at your sins, you become your sins. So like Dracula, like...
Yeah, he doesn't have a reflection, though.
Yeah.
because he's a vampire, but he hates mirrors.
But there could be like, even if it wasn't intended, you can add in like the Dracula has rejected so thoroughly self-introspection.
Yeah.
And an acknowledgement of the evil he has become. And he cannot even see the truth of his reflection, because that would be to acknowledge some portion of his evil.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an interesting interpretation. It's really like, sometimes I think it's just
there. From what I've read so far of Dracula, and I will say that the narrators are doing an excellent performance. I'll also give them that. But there is a reason why that, like, if he had written a werewolf, werewolves would be the popular creature.
Yeah.
If he had written a Strix would be the popular creature. If Dracula was a Drugar would be the popular creature.
Yeah, he was the one that kind of made it a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The writing is absolutely brilliant.
So I guess we'll wrap it up here-ish. I'll leave with just like, because you were disappointed by the first law, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I'll keep, like, I haven't read all the series, so I'll read it all and I'll let you know if it actually turns around at all. Because there is some hints that it might, but it is also hints that it might not. Yeah. Like, I know Game of Thrones, for instance, a lot of people say it's super negative.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin has said in the past, in interviews, people keep misunderstanding me. This is meant to be a happy story. This is meant to be people overcoming, like, a horrible situation. So I don't think Game of Thrones will have an unhappy ending. But if you want stories that are also like a very grimdark sort of thing, but they do have that heroic finish, whatever form that is. I'm not saying it's a good one, but it's like a heroic finish. I would say
Well, that's what I was saying, like, Colonel West, his ending could even be he loses a leg and an arm.
Yeah.
And I like that better than magic radiation poisoning.
Well, it was very much hinted that the seed was a nuke, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, he basically was planning to nuke the desert people. Like,
yes. No, it's very obvious.
Like, Baez is evil George Bush. Like, it's right there. Wait.
Evil George Bush.
Yeah. That's what the story's about, right?
Evil George Bush.
Yeah. He's like George Bush without the funny quotes and quips. And I mean, George W. Bush, I guess. But so, Prince of Thorns. Similar in the main character is just this ridiculous monster, kind of like Logan. Less so in that the main character is seeking redemption. But he's kind of like that so awful you love him sort of thing. Kind of like Lokta, I think.
Yeah.
But it also does have like that Arthurian sword at sunset sort of throughout it. And there is I don't know if there's good voice acting for it. Like, I've never heard the audiobook or anything. But there's a part, if they do a good job, it would be amazing. It's right near the start of the book. I think it's near the start of the book anyways. It's one of my favorite scenes in the book, and I think it kind of describes the series in a way. But the main character, he's a prince. So he's down in his father's torture chamber, and he's watching this African man being tortured. And he's never seen an African man before because he's like French or British or German or something. Yeah. Like, it takes place on Earth, but it's like way in the future.
Yeah.
And so
post-apocalypse.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
They live in the ruins of a city where there's like the concrete mixed with rental rebar. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like the ghosts of the past are everywhere. Yeah. So he sees this African man who's from Nubia. And so he's just called the Nubian throughout the entire series. And he's strapped to the rack, basically. Yeah. And with these huge, thick chains. And he's surrounded by guards and torturers. Yeah. And they're all discussing what they're going to do next. Because they like stab him with the hot irons and he just laughs. And they're like, what do we... And so the Prince of Thorns, he's a little kid. And he wanders over to the Nubian. And he says, you're chained down with heavy chains. And the Nubian, he has like a super deep rumbling voice. So I couldn't do it. But it would be if it's just like... So like you have this little kid voice, right? And he's like... You're strapped with thick chains. Yes. It's like, so are you dangerous? Yes. And he like smiles. He apparently has this giant smile. Yeah. And it's like, are you dangerous? And he says, yes. And then the Prince of Thorns is like, show me. And he undoes the chains. And the Nubian with one arm reaches up, grabs a guard, crushes his neck, pulls him down, takes the key, unlocks the other chain, and he like kills all the guards in the room. And it's just it's a ridiculous, cool scene in a way because it's like, the little prince just goes over to this guy and he's like, are you dangerous? And he's like, yes. And the prince is like, show me. And then he just tears through this castle of guards. And like the characters, it's kind of similar to the Named Men in that they're these ridiculous over-the-top characters. Yeah. They're not as over-the-top as the Named Men, I would say, even despite that scene. Yeah. But yeah, I do like that. And then there's the Burning White, dark series with like Jesus comes back from the dead ending, basically. That one's pretty good. And then I mentioned it, but it's a great series. It's not really related to the others, but the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, very grounded. Kind of a weird ending, I would say, but it's just very well written, very unusual sort of story. It's nice to see a bit of difference. And you'll never trust me for book recommendations. I think the sheer creativity is worth seeing just to be like, wow, this is what you can do with writing. Like it's incredible. Like, more people need to learn from Joe Abercrombie. Like, he said, Thomas Covenant. That's another series that is very dark with a lot of...
I ain't read it.
Very downer, sort of miserable.
Yeah.
How many series do you read where the main character is a rapist? Like, that's... I mean, wow. What an opportunity. Get in there and read that series. Yeah.
See, one of the problems, I think, is the first law is like one of the...
Actually, there's another series where the main character is a rapist. Corbel Boschen Boschlin.
Yeah. So here's my problem.
Yeah.
Is I finished the sequel to Dragon Bone Share.
Yeah.
And it is... Parts of it actually haunt me still of that story.
Yeah. No, I get the same from Dragon Bone Share.
And then...
sometimes I have a dream I'm still reading it, and then I wake up and I'll...
I finished the book series for The Son of the Black Sword. And that is... Well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but its ending had an impact on me.
Yeah.
And then I finished the Wrath of the God book series, or whatever. I think it's like the Bloodsworn saga.
Yeah.
And I told you, like, the author's daughter died.
Yeah.
And it massively impacted the book.
So you just need a happy story.
Made the ending very sad.
Yeah.
And it's a good ending, but damn is it a sad ending. Like, so many of the characters die, and it's like, oh, this hurts. Like, this amount of characters died in it, and there are certain plot points which are abandoned, which seem to imply that characters were going to get brought back to life.
Yeah.
And the ending just hurts. But it's one of those ones where it's like, but in the end, all said and done, the world is better than it was. There is this absolutely epic moment as well in it. So there's like these really cool moments in the ending. There's very cinematic moments. It's like, oh yeah, this thing happened here. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I finished the first law.
So it's just like...
I needed something happier than what I'd been getting.
Okay, how about A Wizard of Earthsea? Have you read that?
No.
Okay. Very happy.
Well, doing Dracula right now, so...
That's not happy.
Yeah, but...
I mean, Wizard of Earthsea is... The story isn't happy.
See, I know the ending of Dracula. I've watched it in movies like 3 different... I've watched its ending 4 different times in movies, and I've read the Wikipedia article of the whole story breakdown.
Yeah. No, I do think there's a lack of, like...
But I need a Lord of the Rings ending. So was it the Burning Bright or...
Burning White.
Burning White.
Yes. No, that one... Now, it's a long series. It's 4 books.
Okay.
They're long books. But the ending of that one is definitely like a Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings style. Like...
Or even... I need a book with good characters.
First Law?
No, I mean like they're good people.
Oh. Have you read the latest Dresden book?
No.
Actually, forget everything I said. Latest Dresden book.
Okay.
It's...
Because I need Aragon-like characters.
No.
I need characters with good souls.
No, final answer. Locked in. Next Dresden book.
Yeah.
It's got everything.
Okay.
I mean, maybe not quite Aragon level, but it's got Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael's up there. But it's like, best book in the series.
Yeah.
Ending is, like I told you before, perfect ending. I'm not going to say what it is, but for what but this was the book he needed to write instead of Skin Game, Peace Talks, Battleground, all the other books in there. Like, he should have written this book instead. It was... I was getting worried that Dresden Files was going to kind of go out with a whimper and a pitter and just kind of... Like, Rivers of London was a series I loved, and then, like, book 8, the author just lost it, and it's like, I just gave up on the series, right? I was worried Dresden would be like that. This book is the best in the series. Like, brings it all back, and the ending...
It ends with Dresden reaching into his pocket and pulling out a pocket full of sunshine and blowing it in one of the Black Court's faces.
And what's the... Natalie Portman or whatever? No, that singer, I got a pocket, got a pocket.
But I'm just talking about you can only cast a pocket full of sunshine.
If you're happy. Yeah.
So he reaches in his pocket and he pulls that pocket full of
I got a pocket full of sunshine. This is my pocket. This
yeah,
is all mine.
I need that Pratchett ending. That's it.
No, Dresden. That's your next one.
Okay.
After Dracula, you're reading Dresden.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the correct answer. And then after that, I'll give you the list of Thomas Covenant.
Give you all your stupid Royal Road books.
No, I'll save those. No. You've got a lot to do before the Royal Road. You've got to do Prince of Thorns.
No, see, instead of the Royal Road, I read manga and I watch anime.
No. It's different. See, Royal Road, there's a chance of finding something good.
I came across Free Ren.
Yeah, but that's like 1 in a billion. Like that was.
I think
actually I did.
I think, despite all, I think Free Ren's worth it.
I actually did some digging. Madhouse, the animation studio that does Free Ren. They also did. It's called like Perfect Blue or something, which I watched like.
Isn't that the soccer anime?
No, it's like the horror one where the lady goes crazy and she thinks she's like a pop idol and she starts like stabbing herself or something. And
okay.
And there was this guy, he wrote these really weird horror anime movie things, and they're actually quite interesting. Like I watched a few of them. There's one where a bunch of people like end up dying and they become ghosts and they just walk around as ghosts, but they don't realize they're dead. And so they do all sorts of like goofy things as ghosts. But anyways, Madhouse animated all those. They did Fear In. And so I think like there is some studios that are just higher quality than other studios. Like the reason I started watching Jujutsu Kaisen was Madhouse also did Death Note.
Yeah.
But Jujutsu Kaisen is a different studio, but they did another like decently good one. And so that's how I learned about it, because I was just looking at like what are the studios that actually publish like good.
What's unfortunate is you go with that, and there's an amazing studio right now doing an anime called Chainsmoker Cat.
Yeah.
And it is like, their animation is gorgeous. They are such good animators. Their characters are so expressive. It's so funny. They're amazingly talented. And it's the grossest thing you will ever watch, because the main character is an unemployed chain smoker who's an awful human being who like does drugs and is constantly throwing up or like having diarrhea. And so it's like you have the most talented team of animators ever doing a story that is so gross Japanese audiences are rejecting it.
Ew, it's gotta be gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see that, I don't think.
No, I don't think you like it, but it's like one of those things like, why is such a talented group of animators animating this? Because they could do so many other things.
No, Fear In is one of those stories that actually, and I think it doesn't quite do it. Like it's like a tier 3 mythological story, right? But we need more tier 2s. Like there's not many. There's Tolkien. Who did I say? Like Stoker, I guess technically. I would say it's not quite there, but like actually Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell with fairy myths, she kind of creates her own. The author, but it has that feeling of being like much more to the roots of the thing rather than, because it becomes so much. This is just my D&D and writing tip. You want to make your story feel so much stronger, just draw a little from mythology. Like if you have a dragon, have them talk like Fafnir and Sigurd did.
I guess 40k is
like
be.
Well, not 40k so much as fantasy, but like 40k is like on top of fantasy, but but like Warhammer Fantasy was like second degree, because it's like very heavily like Nurgle was a Mesopotamian god, and like their Lady of the Lake, like they do a very good job of like weaving in some of, and the reason it's so powerful is because they draw so heavily on that first order stuff, and so it just makes it that much stronger. Like you don't even have to say like I put this in there. It's just when you have the detail of they talk to Grendel, and Grendel's like the Grendel-like creature, and Grendel says something that the Grendel in the Poetic Edda would have said. It gives you a bit, not the Poetic Edda, the Beowulf cycle or saga or whatever it's called. It just gives you that...
The Ballad of Beowulf.
That tie-in makes you go a little bit like, that was good. Even if you don't know about the story of Beowulf, you're like, that felt good for some reason. Like, why did that language feel so powerful there? Or you use a bit of the language of like the Poetic Edda where I was talking about, where they talk about like the... what do they call it? Their word for warrior is like a non-hungry wolf or something.
One thing you will notice from reading Dracula, this is to anyone, is a line will happen, and you will think this is a toss-laden line or this is just a description, and you'll realize, wait a minute, this came from Dracula? And one of them is the lawyer's looking out his bedroom window, and he's looking at the moon. He sees these weird floating shapes around the moon. It's like, oh, they're pretty. I'll watch them for a bit. And he's just laying there, he's really relaxed, and he sees them getting closer, and it's Dracula's three brides. And they're like laughing, and their faces are wild and covered with blood. And it's like, no, I must get away from these weird sisters.
Oh, like in Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, but Terry Pratchett chose that because the term weird sisters is used everywhere. But it's like, oh, weird sisters. It's Dracula.
It's Dracula, yeah.
And there's just certain lines, like there's another one I can't remember, but there's certain lines they'll be reading Dracula and go like, you know, like when the movie drops the title?
Yeah.
It will be like that.
That's the name of the movie.
But it's for like the rest of culture. It's like, it's a drop that's like, wait, all of culture, like this whole thing of culture, this whole trope is from Dracula.
Well, I had that just when I was reading about Fafnir and Sigurd, and Sigurd said, I'm not going to fall for your death curse. It's like, wait, that's Dresden Files. That's like, like Dresden Files talks about the death curse. And I thought that was sort of just like that's the thing, right? It makes sense in universe. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. But it makes sense because it's a human thing that was also seen way in the past. Because all of mythology it's not actually a really well-written story. It's the things that make sense to humans that we kept. So it's like the best of humanity. Yeah. And it's the things that we all agree on. Like mythology is basically that which humans all agree on. Yeah. More or less. And I think that really makes it like, oh, Death Curse. Yeah, that's why it's so powerful, because it was powerful back in the...
That's why Dominions is such an amazing game.
Yeah, because the guys know what they're talking about, and they...
And also the gameplay does actually work, too.
Yeah. And it's always... Yeah, it's really great when they get back to it. And too many stories are like too high order. Like, that is the thing about the First Law. Yeah. It is like 10th order. Like, it is not drawing on mythology. Yeah. It is spitting. It is drawing on history a little bit, but it's kind of spitting in the face of all that humanity has agreed upon, and it is saying the world is dark, war is miserable, and there are no heroes.
If you go onto Steam, I don't think it's for the latest Dominions, but if you go to the next game, you know where you can see the posts that people post on Steam, like screenshots and stuff. There's some amazing artwork that comes out of Dominions of people like just reflecting on a thing that happened. And they're like these incredible... It's like, I think it's just one artist does them. They're these incredible pieces of work. What made me think about them is I recently did a quick game of Dominions, which was... I was playing Emer, the Empire, in the first age. So they're not evil yet. And I was fighting against a modded nation, which had the Cytokai in it, which are... giant cannibals from North American mythology. Yeah. And so I had these scenes where I basically had like pseudo-Roman legions with like men with pikes and shields and swords, and I had my light cavalry wrap around the sides fighting giants and witches, and so it was like a group of pikemen would surround a Cytokai giant and like take him down, and it's like these epic scenes, but slowly I was getting pushed back by the forces of the Cytokai. And there's another nation I made peace with, but they were getting ready to attack me. Their armies were building on my borders. And then I was researching my magic, and I had this one tree, which is I could call forth the senators of the long-lost dead. And I could wrap my men's faces in death cloths to make them more powerful and give them flaming swords to carve through demons. And then my god was the goddess of the underworld. She was this titan, and she had like a bunch of death magic. And then I had a tier 6 spell, which was called the Gate of the Underworld. And casting a spell opened a gate to the underworld. And it gave my nation a huge amount of bonuses. It's like my nation's ultimate spell. So I cast that. And then my domain became the domain of death. And my citizens started dying. And in every single territory I had faith in that I controlled, undead legionnaires started rising up. And every turn I got more and more of them, and I sent out my commanders, and my commanders could now command the dead. And so I would integrate these undead armies into my armies, and I destroyed the Cytokai and the other nation, I took them out, and my faith was so powerful it spread throughout the world, and it annihilated Pangaea, which was on an island separate from my nation that I couldn't get to because I couldn't cross the seas. And then the middle age of Emer is the Dead Empire.
Yeah.
And I realized
You did what they had
I
done.
literally did the lore of Emer. Of I couldn't win, so I opened up the gates to the underworld and unleashed death onto my empire.
You know what's interesting is that's what Inanna or Ishtar said. She said, if you do not do this for me, I will throw open the gates of death, and the dead will outnumber the living and devour them all.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened in that.
Yeah.
And that's, I wonder if it's based on like this Sumerian like Ishtar, but it's like Roman legionaries.
But like,
But it's like
the best play for the nations
is to do what happens.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And it's like, that's brilliant.
And yeah, that's on top of like good game design, on top of like a fascinating world building, on top of managing to combine like all the mythologies and their depth of knowledge of mythologies is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, yeah. Play Dominions, read the last Dresden books, and actually don't play Dominions. You need help. Get some help.
Well, I was doing it to take a break from making my modded tutorial to the vampirism mod.
You're just in the dark realms. This is like when I was reading Mein Kampf, and I was just like, reading is hell. And now that it's over, I'm like, whoa, I'm reading. Yeah. I'm reading books, and I'm having a good time.
Well, no, but I do the vampirism guide properly because the beginning, I show how to be a vampire. And I go through that tutorial. And then the second half is actually how to be a vampire hunter.
So how do you make it stronger? You throw in like your Dracula knowledge. You throw in, you're like, ooh, now it's got that tie. You're like, ooh.
Yeah.
You'll have like crawling out the window. Yeah, welcome to the mod.